what is human trafficking, sex trafficking, and how that's different than just prostitution?
So, human trafficking, human smuggling, those words get confused. So, human smuggling, if you think about that, and that's, we're near the border. I know you've had guests on talking about the border and the trafficking that's going on with that. Human smuggling is a crime against the border, whereas human trafficking is a crime against a person. And that trafficking can be through forced labor or forced sex. And so, for us to prove a crime of human trafficking, and I come from the perspective of mostly sex trafficking, we haven't really had a lot of labor trafficking cases come to our attention. Not that it's not happening. We have a situation where these victims of labor trafficking don't realize that they're victims. They're making more money here in the United States than they are in their other country. And so they don't come forward because they don't know that they're a victim. Whereas sex trafficking, we do have victims that come forward, and we do contact them through those prostitution contacts. And really, what it is the evolution of and our understanding of sex trafficking. We're recognizing that people are being exploited out there. They're not there under their own free will. They're actually not free to leave, even though they may be walking down the side of the road with a phone in their hand. They're not free to leave. And we have some repair to do as far as our relationship with those exploited victims, because they literally have been told by their trafficker, the police are just going to arrest you. And that's exactly what we were doing before. And so we're trying to change that now, as far as, obviously there are some individuals that are out there working independent and committing that crime without the direction or exploitation of another person. But there are individuals that are definitely being exploited. And so deciphering through that is what we do on a daily basis.
Now, I got a kind of a two-parter here.
Yeah.
Um, there's going to be people, civilians especially, that are going to hear that and they'll be like, do they not have a family they can go to? Like, how can they be walking freely and they don't just get away? So let's go down that path. I know the answer, but I would like to hear from you.
Yeah. And so that's where, since retiring, and we didn't even get through my career, but I retired in October of 2021, after almost 14 years in the human exploitation and trafficking unit. That's where I see the power of awareness. I see me presenting about trafficking, what the indicators are, what trafficking is, how victims become vulnerable, what traffickers do to recruit and groom and keep these victims exploited, and then sex buyers and their part in this entire situation, creating the demand for this problem. That is what I present on and speak on. And I have built a whole course on, because I want people to have a full understanding of this, because I have an ulterior motive. Every time I go present, I see the community members as future jurors, and I know that I need those juries to understand what trafficking is, what it isn't, how these victims are vulnerable. Because when I have them on my case and I want them to deliver a guilty verdict, they're going to need to understand all of the parameters and dynamics of the life and of sex trafficking victims. And, it is a huge burden to be a juror, and I understand that. That trial that I went through with the almost 500-year sentence, that was a 7-month long trial. I testified 11 times. But the jury understood and learned through the use of expert witness testimony, and obviously the victims that came to testify, what sex trafficking is and what that victim's going to have to live with for the rest of their life. And so that's my ulterior motive for my awareness mission and everything that I'm doing now.
Beautiful. I hope
In a
I'm able.
nutshell.
Hopefully, I'm able to help you get that message out there. So,
Yeah.
what is the typical living environment for your person that's being human trafficked?
So part of that recruitment and grooming is to get the victim away from their family, away from the familiar. And so isolation is huge for a trafficker, to isolate their victim. They're constantly traveling, they're very transient. They're from, hotel to hotel, city to city, state to state. One, because they don't want to get caught by the police. And then two, because they want their victim to be so dependent on them that when they're in one place too long and they start to get to know like the hotel desk clerk or the custodial person at the hotel, the trafficker is going to uproot them again because they don't want that person, a normal person, to talk to them about getting out and leaving their trafficker. And so that's part of keeping them constantly mobile is the isolation.
Okay. And then I know drug dependency is a big one. They'll get them dependent on drugs and facilitate that dependency. And
Drugs is huge. I've literally got Facebook search warrant evidence of the private messaging between, and this is just one example of this particular trafficker saying, "Do this date first," and the girls, multiple of the victims, are saying, "Daddy, can I have a pill? Do this date first. Daddy, can I, go to bed or go see my family or a friend? Do these dates first." So totally controlling them through every means, and the fentanyl pills are a huge part of this as well right now.
yeah, fentanyl is, man, that is a scary, scary drug. Um, and I've had Chris Foreman out of Washington. He runs. He's the president for the narcotics group up over in that state, and pretty big name in the narc world. And we kind of went down that rabbit hole about fentanyl. Derek Maltz is another one that's got a big. He's a federal agent that's pushing the awareness on fentanyl. But